James Franklin relieved of command at Penn State. 3-3, halfway through the season. Came as a bit of a surprise. You and I were messaging on Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. You were like, hey, maybe we should be on call in case something goes down with Franklin. And I said, they're not going to fire him now.
Of course.
They might not fire him at all. Maybe they'll just kind of, I don't know, suggest that he take another job and kind of get out of the buyout or something. Nope, they fired him, Dan.
47 minutes later.
They fired him. They got rid of him. Pat Kraft just gave a fiery press conference, which I can talk about here in just a little bit.
Penn State AD. Yeah.
Penn State AD, that's correct. Alas, Penn State is now the big job that's on the board. There are a handful of others. My hunch is that it's not going to be the last one to come open. My curiosity is whether Penn State opening now is going to promote other schools that are maybe on the brink to make the move sooner than they expected, just so that they can get their hat in the ring as well. But as you know, I have a lot of thoughts on this, Dan. Why don't I turn it over to you for a second to get your initial feedback on what we saw? Of course, as you said, we did do a bit of an emergency stream. We posted that audio out to our Patreon folks at footballers.com yesterday afternoon. But now that you've had a few hours to sleep on this news, to think a little bit more about it, bigger picture, mindful of the fact that you have no connection to Penn State other than the fact that your Oregon Ducks play in the same conference and beat Penn State a couple weeks back. What was your reaction to this? Did it surprise you? Again, I've got a lot to say, but I want to give you ample opportunity here at the mic.
Sure. I think the frustration is warranted. I think the concern about the direction of the program, given how long he's been there, is warranted. I think the frustration with some of the things that he's had time to fix, maybe the offensive roster, the offensive outlook, quarterback development, is extremely concerning. And I think every Penn State fan is justified in feeling, pretty frustrated with where Penn State has been this season, given, I think, reasonable expectations, given what they returned from a semifinalist team from last season. I think all of that, I don't have any qualms, quibbles, whatever, with any of those concerns. It's a wild world in which somebody who has won as much as he has, including taking a team not just to the playoff, but deep into the playoff last season, has a bad start this year, given, expectations once again, and is let go October 12th, right? He doesn't make it to Halloween after winning as much as he has at Penn State. Again, all of the comments about can't win the big one, and he's a medium game James. I just made that nickname up. That's pretty good.
It's okay.
It is kind of crazy unless something behind the scenes was too far gone. And I'm willing to fully appreciate and understand that that's a possibility, right? Frayed relationships with administrators or the locker room or assistants, whatever, that you're like, it's just, there's no coming back from blank. And I'm totally open to the fact that, maybe it just was a sense that the fire was gone from Franklin, from within the program, whatever. And you're just like, that it had run its course and the search for a new guy begins today. I'm open to all of that. It still feels on a certain level kind of crazy to do this now. And so I was with you when you said that you would be surprised if they were to make a move now. But again, we are not privy to exactly what's happening behind the scenes. And so I'm sure that plays a role. But what James Franklin has accomplished at Penn State is unmatched by 128 current coaches, right? So that's the clear statement and signal. And this can be debated whether this is fair or not, but the clear signal from Penn State, Pat Kraft, anybody involved in making this decision is, we believe Penn State should be no worse than 10-2, 11-1 ever. We believe the standard for Penn State is equal to the best teams in this sport. Again, whether that's fair or not, whether it's backed up by recent results, modern results, whatever, anything since 1995, sure, please argue it. It's fine with me. But the clear statement is, we should not take a backseat to literally anybody in this sport, and we need to find somebody who is demonstrably better than what James Franklin has accomplished here. And I applaud setting a high bar. I think setting a high bar in anything in life is admirable, right? Hold yourself to a high standard. Who's that guy who wants to come to Penn State and do that? Okay. Who's that guy? I don't think it's going to be Curt Cignetti. Who's that guy? Find him. Okay. You talk the talk. Now let's see how well Pat Kraft can walk.
Well, Pat Kraft did talk the talk at his presser.
Yeah, he talked the talk.
He did talk the talk, and he said almost precisely what you just described. Look, I feel the same about James Franklin. I expected that there was going to be a new guy on the sidelines next season. I didn't expect it to happen this quickly. Just for context, right? More to your point, James Franklin was there for over a decade. He further stabilized the program after Bill O'Brien left. He built it into a bit of a recruiting powerhouse. And more often than not, Penn State was one of the best 3 teams in the Big Ten. So this was not a Sam Pittman situation where James was constantly on the hot seat. This wasn't even a Jimbo Fisher situation where he had a few bad seasons and then they let him go. This is a guy.
And to clarify, the old Big Ten.
The old Big Ten. The old Big Ten.
They were one of the best 3 programs and made the conference championship game last year. So they were one of the 2 best-ish, depending on your viewpoint. But in the old Big Ten, they were a top 3 team.
This is a guy who made the semifinals a year ago.
Correct.
And still, they cut bait as soon as it was clear they were not going to get back. I have been pretty clear on this show that I like James Franklin. I do think he deserves more respect in the end than he ended up getting here. I saw some of the comments that have been floating around online about him and his family, and all that stuff's embarrassing.
Of course.
The good news is, I guess, he's going to walk away with a lot of money one way or another. If nothing more, I think he's going to have more than ample opportunity to get a fresh start somewhere else if he wants it.
Yeah.
All that being said, I understand this atmosphere better than most. I went there. I live in the state. I talk to still a long list of Penn State people who are very close to the football program and more connected than you and I. I thought that this would happen at the end of the season because the endless pursuit of Ohio State finally got to everybody. And in this case, it finally drove everybody crazy enough to justify a $50 million buyout. There is a reason why my Penn State preview centered around beating Oregon and or Ohio State and not winning a national championship, even though I jinxed him by picking it.
Definitely not centered around beating UCLA and Northwestern.
Definitely did not even mention that in the preview.
Right.
Everyone is chasing a title that is not unique across college football. Penn State was chasing a symbol. And that symbol was about getting over the hump. That symbol, that sign, that vision from above was about beating one of the perceived top teams in the conference as a proof of concept that Penn State is on that same tier.
Yeah.
Everything pointed to this year. Everything pointed to this year being the year that would happen. And so that's why Pat Kraft did this now. I've said it before. If Pat Kraft were to go up there at the lectern after the season and say, we know we fell short of that standard, but we still believe James Franklin is the guy, he would have a hard time in the Penn State community getting buy-in. I just think it was time. I think the relationship had run its course, even though James Franklin has accomplished a great deal at Penn State. I don't think he could go up there and credibly say it at this point, for better or worse. And so that's why he made the move. As I said on the reaction stream, even though I disagree with the manner in which they did this, I do give him credit. He spoke to this at his press conference. He made the decision on Sunday. He figured, look, this is going to happen. Let's just do it now. I give him credit for ripping the Band-Aid off. There are a lot of programs that don't do that. I think that was, if you made the decision, why masquerade around as if it's anything else?
Right.
The obvious question now is who's next, okay? To your point, who's next? You always see 2 lists floating around when you have something like this pop up.
Yeah.
You've got one that's a wish list that is totally unmoored from reality. And then you've got another list, which is almost always more underwhelming. And that's the one that I think is more reflective of reality.
Well, you know whose name always gets tossed into these big openings?
John Gruden?
James Franklin.
Oh, yeah, James Franklin, right?
Continue.
James Franklin, man, he's going to have his pick of the litter here now.
Yeah.
There is no shortage of well-known Penn Staters out there confusing the wish list with the reality list. And I don't blame them. because every fan base in the history of college sports has done the exact same thing. Here is where we're at. Of course, you got to make the calls to the Curt Cignettis, to the Marcus Freemans, to the Dan Lannings, to the Lane Kiffins, to the whoever you think are obvious upgrades. You got to call them. You have to. In my opinion, it sounds like in your opinion, none of those guys are going to leave a stable situation that they have built themselves into being contenders to come to another place that they think they might be able to do it.
Yeah, but Pat Kraft has a ton of anytime minutes, right? So making those calls, it's not that huge a deal.
Why leave a current contending situation on the hope that you can build it elsewhere, especially in this era of college football where, as we've said time and again, stability is currency?
Sure.
I don't see it. I see the reality list being much shorter than most Penn Staters would care to admit. I do not think they are going to get Curt Cignetti away from Indiana. I think Indiana will pay him a king's ransom to keep him there.
Yep.
Why would he leave? I think that's when the Matt Rhule stuff starts to heat up. I have had so many people over the last 24 hours message me and say, well, why pay $50 million to get rid of one coach and then hire another one that you could argue isn't quite as good? I don't disagree with that. I understand that sentiment. I'm not out here advocating for Matt Rhule. I'm not. But there's a very close personal connection here between Rhule and Kraft. Goes all the way back to their days at Temple. Matt Rhule, Penn State grad, Penn State alum, played linebacker. Clearly, there has been a lot of steam on Rhule for a good long time. That's why I've been talking about it for 5 years. It has been the worst kept secret in college football that he would be the target of a hypothetical search here for Penn State. I don't think it's a lock that he's going to take it. But all I can say is I have heard the same name over and over again for the last 5 years. Yeah. Pat Kraft even sort of looks like Matt Rhule, Dan.
Okay. Yeah.
For whatever
like
that's
morphing
worth
together
to you.
an owner and their dog morphing together into the same
like
look.
When people are married for a long time and then they start to look together or look a lot the same. I don't know. So I think it's Rhule's job to lose. Honestly, if he wants it, I think it's his. Some other names that might be...
Well, look, Ty, first of all, he's just the obvious fit, too. You mentioned the connection to State College. I think he went to high school in State College, played at Penn State under Joe Paterno, and he's god-awful against ranked teams. What is more Penn State than that, Ty?
Listen,
what is more appropriate for this hire than somebody who has gone, 2-23 against ranked teams in his career? Come on, he's ready. He's been building for this moment his entire life. With each ranked loss, Matt Rhule becomes more and more Penn State. Continue.
Some other names out there that I think are realistic. I think Manny Diaz is in play.
Okay.
I think Matt Campbell could be in play. My sleeper candidate, I'm going to keep trying to speak this into existence because I like Fran Brown at Syracuse, but I haven't seen Fran Brown on any lists, but there is also a ton of overlap between him and Pat Kraft. Fran was on Rhule's staff back in the day at Temple. I think he'd be incredible with more resources. He's from Jersey. That would be my guy if all the big guns said no, but nobody's asking for my opinion.
True.
So this is going to heat up. This is going to be very interesting to watch.
Can we get Terry Pagula's opinion? I feel like that one's pretty valuable.
It probably is.
Yeah.
It probably is. But I think that's the state of play. I think it's a shorter list than most people would care to admit. I understand why, when you've got a big job like this one, there is a more fantastical list of candidates that pop up. I've even seen Urban Meyer, John Gruden. Let's throw them all on the list.
Yeah.
Throw all of them on the list.
Yeah.
But I think in reality, it's going to be a more confined list to a couple people. And I stand by what I've said for the last couple years now. I honestly believe that it's going to be Rhule.
Okay.
But I could be wrong,
think
and
he
I'm
would be good
wrong
there?
7 times every time we do an episode. So
do you think he would be good there?
I think it would be a tough sell initially.
Okay.
I think they would almost certainly try to sell it as a homecoming of sorts.
Do you think it would be a tough sell? It seems like it would be an easy sell.
No, I think it'd be a tough sell. I think it'd be
Why?
a tough sell because this is a fan base that is only getting behind this move against Franklin because he has not been able to win the big one. And so then to bring in Rhule, who, to your point, hasn't really won the big one, How do you kind of square that circle? I don't know how you do that.
Because I don't think people will care. Because I think people will say, like, he's one of us. He understands this place in a way that James Franklin never did. He's going to be able to,
that's the angle,
energize this program in a way that Franklin never was able to. He understands the modern game in a way that Franklin doesn't. And he was at a Baylor post-Bryles. He was at Nebraska post-Frost. And, those were such uphill rebuilds that you got to give him time. He would have started to win at Nebraska.
Listen.
And now that he comes into a Penn State situation.
They should contract you out as the PR guy for this.
No, I'm just saying it would be an easy sell.
I think
because Penn Staters love nothing more than one of their own, right?
I think that would be the angle. I don't know if people would buy it. And I would encourage Penn Staters who listen to this show. We have a lot of Penn Staters who listen to this show. Write in solidverbal@gmail.com. Let me know if you would buy that.
They would eat it up like those grilled stickies I brought home, Ty.
Did the kids like them, by the way?
Loved.
Yeah?
Loved. Couldn't get enough.
Good stuff. Our hotel gave us some for free. It was awesome.
That's true.
I don't know. We'll see. But I think that would be the angle if indeed they end up going with Matt Rhule.
Don't do it.
I don't know if I would buy it. I'd be curious to hear from the community if they would buy it. But my hunch is that's where we're at right now. And there is a reason why it is not just me saying Matt Rhule. Everybody worth their salt in this world has came to the conclusion that he is the top target outside of Curt Cignetti, which everybody understands. But there is a reason that everybody instantly said the same name.